All right, everybody. This is Steve with Real Progressives. Tonight, I have a guest, a friend that I've followed for a long, long time. We've partnered. We've done different things. Somebody who I watched from the very, very beginning.
All right, everybody.
And have literally seen her whole existence go from just trying to figure it out to really, really getting it going. And I'm just so impressed. But before we get into her stuff, I want to show you what Araquel Bloss of the Progressive Independent Party did as a campaign manager for none other than Yatish Joshi. I'm going to go ahead and show this right now. This is a really, really nice video footage, so enjoy. Here we go.
Yatish, 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 Yatish. Together a miracle works. Together a miracle works. Together a miracle works. Together a miracle works. You wanna be the man, gotta make a name. Say you wanna win, gotta play the game. If you win a race, gotta make a lane. Wanna make a difference, gotta make a change. Yatish, 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 Yatish. Together a miracle works. Together a miracle works. Together a miracle works. Together a miracle works. You wanna be the man, gotta make a name. Say you wanna win, gotta play the game. If you win a race, gotta make a lane. Wanna make a difference, gotta make a change. Yatish, 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 Yatish.
I am Yatish Joshi, and I approve this message.
All right. With that, I'm going to bring on my guest, Araquel Bloss. Welcome to the show, Araquel. How are you tonight?
Hey, everyone. I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Steve.
Absolutely. So that was pretty exciting. That was a great video. Whose idea was that?
Oh, my gosh. Well, you wouldn't believe it was actually Yatish's idea. He's a big fan of music. He has donated a lot of money to endow our local youth symphony and to IUSB here, Indiana University of South Bend, for their music auditorium. So Blue, who is our rapper in there, he's actually a volunteer for us. And when Yatish got to know him, he said, we have to do a rap video. And even though we were all saying, no, this is probably not a good idea, it was produced by Brian Frazier, he was our videographer and photographer. It turned out so good that we actually ran a lot of premium commercials of that video. So
that's amazing. All right. So I just want to kind of let the audience understand how I watched this whole thing play out. You have been killing yourself. I mean, to the point where sadly, you and I have talked offline about pulling our hair out and trying to make these things work because it's such an important endeavor. And quite frankly, it is just at times overwhelming. But I watched, you pulled back and you said, I'm going to put myself into this campaign while I let PIP continue to grow. You did great recruiting, obviously, to be able to let it run while you were doing that. But talk to me a little bit about why you chose to support him, why you chose to be a campaign manager and put so much into this. It was kind of an interesting leap, but I saw such a great synergy in your ability to lead this coalition that you're trying to put together, and at the same time, understand the electoral battle, the battles that take place for these candidates.
It was an amazing experience, actually, and it was one that I wasn't looking for. I happened to meet an activist named Jordan Geiger, and he was the field organizer. We met at a memorial for a local activist here, sadly, and he kept saying, come meet this candidate, you got to meet this candidate. And eventually I was offered the position, and I couldn't turn it down because it was such an amazing opportunity. He's a really special person. I hope everyone in the audience checks him out at joshiforindiana.com. He calls himself the Brown Bernie. I'm not saying it. That's what he says. He's the Brown Bernie of Indiana. He's an immigrant from Bombay, India. He's a self-made man. He came here 1976 to get his master's degree in polymer science. He then launched his company, GTA Containers, which is a patented process for collapsible containers for water and fuel, for hurricane relief, for the Army, etc. So he's an amazing, amazing man with an amazing story, and he's a giver. So part of the challenge, he's a philanthropist, but one of the challenges is that he had always lived behind the scenes, and so nobody really knew his story and how much he'd given to the community. And so we really need to spend a lot of time getting his story out. And he also has a really, really thick accent. And so for a very red state like Indiana, this was challenging to get people to listen and to get him to his speech classes to really articulate the best he could his ideas, because he's brilliant. We were lucky to have him, and we didn't win, but we hope he'll continue to be a voice for the people.
Absolutely. So I watched you develop the groundwork for PIP. I saw the headaches and all the effort you put in to trying to deal with quite, very strong personalities, people that wanted to go this way, people that wanted to go that way, and watched you corral the various entities in there. I mean, I think the thing that's most impressive about all this is, we've all fought with everybody. There's not one person that we all haven't fought with in this mix, because we're all very passionate activists and we're all fighting, in good faith. But I watched you, I watched some of the strong personalities, especially as we were working up toward Occupy inauguration and the herding cats during that. And then, you guys got pulled out here with working with Movement for a People's Party and Socialist Alternative and others, the Justice Party, and all the cast of characters you had come out for the Convergence Conference. You've put on 2 pretty big gigs. You've coalesced with a lot of different people. It's been a pretty amazing journey. What is the state of PIP, Progressive Independent Party, at this moment?
Well, sorry, someone's mowing their yard outside my window. Well, the exciting thing about this past election, this past primary in Indiana, is that I learned a lot. And we're going to be bringing all those skills and a lot of the organizers I worked with into the fold. We're about to create our 501c4 arm of PIP, which will be Project Pandow, which will be our lobbying arm and our arm to endorse and help progressive candidates and to lobby progressive policies around the country. So I believe it's interesting, the things that even though I had accomplished those things, so much felt overwhelming. But after this campaign, I don't think I've ever worked as hard as I've worked on this campaign. And so now these things seem a lot simpler. So I think we really have a vision moving forward. And I was so glad that we got to speak today, because I wanted to tell our viewers that there's a lot of hope, and we really need to turn activists into political, operatives, political operatives. We need to infiltrate the system, and we can do it. But it takes, shifting gears and learning skills that maybe aren't the most interesting, data, targeting voters and voter registration, things like that. But we really need to look forward to 2020.
It's interesting you say that, because obviously we're working on developing outside the duopoly, but Yatish ran as a Democrat. So obviously, your coalition that you're building isn't, it seems to be that you have a broader vision, like that you're just trying to get progress made. You're not picking and choosing winners here. You're literally fighting for the 99% wherever they live, which is something that really resonates with me. Talk to me about that, because obviously pulling outside the duopoly puts you in a position where you've got some tough choices to make, quite frankly. Is the immediate need greater than the long-term need? How do you balance short-term goals with long-term goals? How do you balance that with the populist message of the progressive movement, coupled with things that are happening in everyday current events? You've got your hands full there. How do you go about doing this? Talk about the structure.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to have to be, it's a state-by-state decision. It's going to have to be for our chapters and our leaders moving forward, because every state's different. Of course, Trump won by a very big margin here in Indiana. We're District 9 and District 2 are the most blue of Indiana. Dan Cannon, who is a hero of mine, he is the civil rights attorney who fought Kim Davis, who would not give out same-sex marriage licenses in Kentucky. He won, and he's a hero of mine, and he ran, and he also lost, and so did Yatish. we did get national attention for both races. We have to decide state by state. See, here in Indiana, in the general, you can push a straight ticket Democrat, just one button Democrat, one button Republican. And so that would just eliminate a lot of independents. So we have to push a lot of legislation to open up our options to get on the ballot and be relevant in the conversation. What we have seen is, for instance, Elkhart County here in Northwest Indiana has 41 seats unopposed by Democratic candidates. Now they have until June to slate people into those positions for the general. But if they don't, the Republicans are just sliding right into those seats. So that is the time, and I hope everyone gets out their pen and pencil and strategizes on getting independents in on those potentially those two people races, a Republican versus independent.
Very good. So one of the things that kind of struck me as odd, if you will, is that so many people claim to want to be an independent. They claim to want to have this party that represents them. They want to be outside the duopoly, so on and so forth. But in order to do the things that we want to do, we've got to have people vote to create laws to allow that to happen. And right now, that's a kind of a juxtaposition, because the people that really are in office, they're not Greens, they're not independents, they're Democrats, they're Republicans. How do we work within the duopoly to get these laws passed to be able to enable working outside the duopoly, to be able to make a larger voice for the people, to really allow that coalition to breathe life into the people?
Yeah, and this past month, PIP voted whether we were going to endorse progressive Democrats. And I know that's a very contentious subject, and not everyone agrees with us. I think we were one of the first national organizations to endorse good progressives of any candidate in 2016. We had Chase Ironized, which was a progressive Democrat, and then we had Margaret Flowers, a Green, running in Maryland. And so I had them vote. I abstained from voting because I was going to be biased with Yatish, Joshi, and they voted to continue to endorse strong progressive Democrats. And I know that Victor with the CFAR contract, I'm not sure how that's going, but I know that DSA got 4 of their endorsed candidates in this past week in Pennsylvania. I think that's fantastic. So if we get progressives in the door, independents and Greens, or anyone running through the Democratic Party, we have to hold their feet to the fire. So it doesn't do any good to get them through if they're going to end up taking corporate money and not voting the way we hope to do.
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, I hearken back to New Jersey when the debate was happening. Oh my goodness, Rutgers, I believe it was, when Jill tried to get on the stage and everyone was taken away. The ability for third parties in general, even to get on the debate stage, has been made. It's like a Rubik's Cube without a solvable, system. So it is extremely frustrating watching what looks to be political theater, as we obviously, the American people want Medicare for all. They want free college. They want green energy. They want to do away with these wars for oil. They want these things, and yet the parties that represent them don't represent them. And the parties that say they would represent them can't even get on the stage or on the ballot. There's got to be some mechanism, some way of doing this. And it sounds to me like you've taken a best of both worlds approach, and that you recognize that for whatever we have to do until we can solve X, we've got to do Y. And while we're doing Y, we got to build Z. And it sounds like you've got a good strategy here. Can you tell me who your partners are at this point in time? Obviously, we supported you from day one, but in terms of the parties and such, who make up this coalition you're working with right now, Araquel?
Well, after the last progressive, the People's Convergence Conference in September, we built a spokes council, which would be the Justice Party and the National Green Party Steering Committee voted to put 2 people on our spokes council and 2 people from PIP. now we're hoping to continue, once we get that solidified, I hope that we'll grow that and vote on, hopefully SA coming in and maybe DSA and growing this. But I was very excited to hear Eric Rydberg last night on Real Progressives talk about the coalition that they've built in California, because it's really up to the states. We could do this on a national level, and we can encourage, which is what Project Pandow is going to do, give the tools and the resources, the phone numbers, the organizations that you should contact to form these coalitions in your state. We need to build the progressive voting bloc to make a substantial difference when we vote. For instance, the corporate Dem won our primary, unfortunately. And I can tell you that it's very serious, the pressure that the Democrats put on you as a campaign manager, as the field staff, as the candidate to endorse the candidate that wins. And we know how people feel about Bernie endorsing Hillary Clinton. But I can tell you from this vantage point now that was strategic. There's really no way to win these middle Democrats unless you play by party rules, try to get the nominee elected at the end of the day. So as a campaign manager, I told the Democratic Party I would not publicly endorse Mel Hall, who is the winner of the primary. And not only that, I'm going to help the Green Party get their candidate, Greg Wolf, for Secretary of State, help them get their 30,000 signatures they need to get on the ballot in November. So you can do both. I think it's hard because you meet friends, and when you get local, you get into local situations and you make friends, and there's a lot of pressure. The Republican is so bad and this and that, but somebody has to hold the line. Somebody has to hold the line and say, no, we're not going to endorse a corporate Democrat who's going to do nothing for us. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Does this work?
Yeah. Sorry. I was like sending you smoke signals.
So let me give you the Cliff Notes version of what I just said that no one heard but me, because I had it pumping through my headphones, but not pumping through the audio here. So what I was saying is that at a point in time where I needed a lift, you were there to give it to me. I picked up the phone, I made a phone call, and I asked you, how do you do it? Because I'm going nuts. And you lifted me up and you gave me praise. And it was the kind of thing that I needed at exactly that moment. And, you and I have done rounds in the ring, friends and stuff fight, and we fought. And the good news is that at the end of the day, we came out stronger. It was very, very empowering to me to hear you talk about, that to keep going, Steve, basically. And it was, I think the thing that is most encouraging is that we want to be able to tell our listeners, our people, our volunteers where to devote their time and things that are of value, and that we want them to support our efforts in supporting coalitions, et cetera. And your encouragement to me was a great big green light for that kind of, partnership, if you will, because they really want to know, yes, we're going to be able to take this stuff that we're learning, be able to advance it, and be able to get a new deal, get a Green New Deal. And this is something that we've been fighting for years. And now we're starting to see Stephanie Kelton really take, the limelight. You got 2 female economists. There's so few female economists in the business to begin with, but 2 of them, 2 very, very smart, sharp women in Pavlina Cherneva and Stephanie Kelton, advancing these things like a federal job guarantee, advancing things like Medicare for all and student debt forgiveness, or not forgiveness, eradication completely. And then you've got African Americans such as Derek Hamilton and Sandy Darity that are out there actively advancing this federal job guarantee as well. The groundwork is laid for a major progressive revival in terms of the policies are finally making their way into the Overton window. And it's a real opportunity to really, really impact society. You guys are stepping up. You guys have got some good stuff in your platform. Talk to us a little bit about what your platform looks like and some of the principles that you all support.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to say to your listeners, and we all have personalities, and as leaders in the movement, we get attacked a lot. We get it's not always a fun thing to be, but you grow really thick skin, and I've seen myself grow stronger, and I'm glad we've always stayed partners and friends. And I want to repeat to your audience what I said to you is that the number one question I had from people that were maybe moderate Democrats who believed in $15 an hour minimum wage, believed in this, this crazy progressive platform we were offering at District 2 in Northwest Indiana. They probably had never seen, definitely on a federal campaign, was how are you going to pay for it? Like we would all love that, but how are you going to pay for that? And as probably everyone knows, economics is not my strong point, but I can say, please check out MMT. Please go to Real Progressives. They will answer your questions and show you the way. And I would have never been able to tell them that they deserve much more. That wealth inequality is just growing so fast, and that we've earned these things, and we can afford it. And the tenets that you pass on. So thank you, Steve, for that. Really.
That means so much to me. I mean, for real.
Right. Everything you've been saying is right. Like, you have to be able to answer the question, how are we going to pay for this? And you're right. That's what people want to know. So thank you for your contribution on that. Now I forgot your question, but I just want to tell all your people that are like, do you know MMT? The things that they ask your people, they're doing a great job at spreading the message.
That's great. And the real question was, we've got big things coming. You got the job guarantee making it to the front stage. You've got women empowered as economists pushing it. You've got this whole progressive push to doing the things that we talked about when Bernie was running, when we were all supporting Bernie Sanders. The policies, et cetera, are now ripe. They're right there. And on top of it, they're starting to get some push as an MMT platform. This is starting to take on a life of its own, bigger than anything I ever dreamed of. And I've been following it since there was like hundreds of people, not thousands of people. Now it's like, oh my goodness, this is really going to happen, I think. And so what I was asking was, talk a little bit about the PIP platform and some of the things that, people might be attracted to in terms of what you all have built policy-wise and just ethos, your core tenets, some of the, the things that you bring to the table that would be attractive to other progressives.
Well, since we launched back in March of 2016, over 2 years now, we're very Bernie-crat centered. We love Bernie. And I know people have come and gone and this and that. And of course, we've expanded our partnerships with Greens and SAs, and we're super impressed with what they're doing. So our platform is very progressive. I think we may be the only potential national, well, we're not a national party yet, but what makes us different is we have endorsed the platform for a movement for Black Lives Matter on our national platform. We put that first and foremost. But the thing that makes us different is our 4 pillars, which is electoral power, coalition building, independent media, and hold on, wait, coalition building. Now I'm going to forget. Okay. Needless to say, what we're trying to do is create cooperative politics, which is very different than this competitive. Politics are competitive, right? And we had a race in Minneapolis that had a Green candidate against an SA candidate, against an independent candidate, against a progressive Democrat candidate. Like, this is what we cannot do. We have to cooperate with each other and stop splitting the progressive vote. So that's how we've been able to create partnerships, I think, is that we're not knocking other organizations down. We're not competing. We're always lifting them up, inviting them to speak, honoring their contribution to the movement, and being all inclusive, welcoming everybody to participate and supporting everyone.
That's great. So I want to say, Nathan Locke was sending out some really kick butt emails for recruiting. I was watching him reaching around. He was really doing great work. I was so impressed. You really did some good recruiting. Can you talk a little bit about your team and how you guys make decisions and, what the whole council setup is like and so forth, how you envision that working?
Yeah, right now they did a little reorganization when I switched focus and let them do their thing, and they created, I think, a steering committee, and then they have a Congress that does their voting. And as we move forward and solidify our 501c4 for Project Pandow, I mean, I can't tell you how excited I am to get that up and running so that we can be a working body of like coalition making. I'm just excited to solidify our plan. So a lot of the people that are with us have been with us a long time, and we've seen our ups and we've seen our downs. We've seen our infiltrators. We've seen, it's been crazy, but we have a special bond that keeps us going, I think.
No, that's fantastic. So tell us about what Project Pandow is. I mean, this is a separate affiliate of PIP.
Yeah, it's going to be our lobbying arm. So the 501c4 will give us the opportunity, give us a broad range of ability as a nonprofit to do select political activities like voter registration, endorsing candidates, working against other candidates, voter education, lobbying for progressive policies. And so I'm really excited about that because we will have PIP run as a party, as a 527, where we need to run it. Hopefully, a lot of times people can just run as an independent, but 527 will be there for PIP if we need it. But I think it's more important to focus on the coalition that we can build and be in partner and connecting this and making it work. So each vote counts more when we vote as a voting block.
No, that's great. All right. So if you were to lay out what the biggest lesson learned was from working with Mr. Joshi in Indianapolis or Indiana, excuse me, what would be some of the lessons learned that you have that you would bring to people so they understand what they're really up against?
Well, there is a machine that picks the candidate if it's subtle or if it's not so subtle. In our instance, it was a corporate Democrat who wanted to raise the minimum wage to maybe $8.25 an hour. What I learned is that there is no substitute for the work, for the grassroots work. All the people in that rap video that you saw, were all members of our team. Those were volunteers, staff. I think I was literally the only white person on staff, which was amazing. Our campaign lifted up so many people as the campaign grew, and so I would encourage everyone to keep their eye on the impact you have on the communities around you, and that you're inclusive and lifting others up. But I want to tell your viewers that hopefully they're all still active. Bernie may not be around right now, but there's a lot of candidates that need your help. They need your $27. They need you knocking on doors. They need you doing the virtual phone banking. And I hope that everyone is going around and doing that, because there really is no substitute for that direct voter contact. And those are the things that we have to build from the ground up. It makes a difference with voter turnout. That's the number one thing I think I learned, is that the people that are most impacted by bad policies are the same people that we can't seem to get out to vote. So we really need to, progressives need to really focus on getting the vote out.
All right. So as you progress through these next phases here, can you lay out kind of like what a blueprint for the next, I don't know, 6 months looks like up until, let's say, the election in November? What does PIP and so forth look like from now till then?
Well, I think after this campaign, some of my local organizers and I will be focusing locally, hopefully putting some people on the ticket as independents for November. And we're already looking ahead for 2019. I think that we cannot forget that everyone has to run for office. It's not a popular thing. People are like, I have to run, you have to run, everyone has to run. The fact is there's a lot of seats and there's not a lot of people running sometimes. So I encourage everyone to already start looking at the county level, city level, municipality level seats that are going to be opening, and try to create an entire slate of progressives to try to push them through, because that legislation and those look at Shama Sawant in Seattle as a socialist councilwoman, how much that they've done for the whole country in terms of trends. They just passed that head tax from to Amazon to help the homeless there. So I encourage everyone to grin and bear it and think about running for school board. I mean, Bernie was right. School board, township seat, get in there and make your voice heard and represent the people.
So, Araquel, I want to give you an opportunity to basically lay out your pitch to folks to come join, work with you guys, whatever. Go ahead and present PIP in a nutshell so that they know how to get in touch with you all.
Yeah, I hope you'll come and join us and help us build this coalition party for the 99%. Hopefully someday we'll get there as a group. But in the meantime, we need volunteers because, for instance, we want to help Tim Canova, get elected as an independent in Florida. And we want to be able to call on our volunteers to hit the ground running, make phone calls, knock on doors, actually do this work that we did for Bernie for all these other candidates that are coming up. So if you sign up, that'd be fantastic. So you can help us grow this large coalition, connect all the dots so we are as powerful as we can be.
Awesome. All right, Araquel, thank you very much for your time. I think everybody really is excited. I mean, folks, I know for a fact folks on our team have tracked on you since you guys were, we were all little teeny little nothing. and I remember, God, I can almost remember looking at my phone during the DNC and you're like, hey, we're coming around the bend. Hey, there's going to be a direct action. Hey, they're going to walk out. Hey, we're going to be there. I mean, I still feel the excitement of that time period. It's a terrible thing to be excited about that, but at the same time, it was kind of like the spark that sent everything ablaze because you realized it's not going to happen the way we wanted it to happen. We're going to have to pick up the ball and run with it. Mm-hmm. So you've been a tremendous inspiration to me. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate the fact that we've been able to spar and come back and be stronger than ever. So I want to wish you well. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. And folks, I want to thank you guys for coming and listening to us as well. Araquel Bloss, Progressive Independent Party, Project Pando. Thank you so much again for joining us tonight. All right. Have a good night, everybody.